In this video, we will be reading the first chapter of Journey to the Center of the Earth. This is a fantastic science fiction text based on the story by Jules Verne, illustrated by Andrea Darrold. Chapter 1, A Mystery to be Solved. It was a peaceful spring morning when my uncle, Professor Lidenbrook, came busting into our house. He strode through the dining room where I sat, shouted, "Axel, follow me," and stormed into his study. I hadn't had time to move before he yelled, "Wall, where are you? Aren't you here yet?" My uncle was not a bad man, but he was certainly an eccentric. He had a clear scientific mind and a terrifying temper. Every stride he took was exactly 3 feet long, and while he walked, he waved his arms about. With such a man, the only thing to do was obey him. So I hurried to his study. I found him buried in his armchair, holding a tattered, ancient-looking book. "Axel, come, look at this priceless gem. It's an ancient chronicle from Iceland." "How magnificent!" I said, not very convincingly. What was the point of making a fuss over a dusty old book? As my uncle started talking about ancient runes, my mind drifted off to thoughts of Gruben, my sweetheart. I was lost in a dream, thinking about how beautiful she was, while my uncle laddered on until a piece of parchment fell out of the book and slipped to the floor. "But what's this?" said my uncle, picking it up. He carefully spread the parchment out across his desk, and we stared at the strange characters written across it. As we were studying the parchment, Martha, my uncle's maid, put her head around the door. "Soup is served," she said weakly. "The devil take your soup!" shouted my uncle. "I'm not going to eat or sleep until I can read this parchment." I stood up to go to lunch. "And nor will you, Axel," he roared. Martha fled. 2 hours later, my uncle had translated the ancient runes into our language, but it still didn't make any sense. "It must be in code," he said, "possibly written by someone who owned the book." Picking up his magnifying glass, he scanned the book until he came across a faded name. "Arne Saknussemm. Arne Saknussemm," he muttered. "A brilliant explorer of 16th century. Could he have written this? But in what code, Axel?" he said abruptly. "What do you think?" I shrugged. It seemed likely to me that the message meant nothing at all. "It just doesn't make any sense," my uncle growled, slamming the desk with his fist, then darting across the study and hurtling downstairs like an avalanche. He rushed out onto the street and raced off. Thank you for listening to the chapter 1 of the Journey to the Center of the Earth. In the next video, we will be discussing Professor Lidenbrook in more detail. I hope you enjoyed reading with me. Please remember to subscribe. Thanks.